Welcome back everyone to another Star Wars lore video. This time I will be talking about the Pius Dea era, a lesser known Star Wars topic that I've wanted to cover on the channel for some time. Something good to know going into this video is that BY means years before the Battle of Yavin, the space battle at the end of the original Star Wars movie where Luke Skywalker destroys the first Death Star. Something also worth noting is that not all the visuals in this video will be Star Wars, and that's because only 2 official pictures for this era actually exist. I'd also like to apologize for all the words I know I'm going to mispronounce, and like most Star Wars topics I talk about, this is part of the Legends timeline. Getting started, Pius Dea is a monotheistic religion, or cult founded over 12,000 years before the Clone Wars. Members of this religious movement worshipped an entity simply referred to as the Goddess, and called for communities to combat corruption by policing themselves and purging the unredeemable. Pius Dea is frowned upon by many, due to its view of humans being supreme and aliens being inferior. A few centuries after founding, the Pius Dea became far more widespread, with the rise of a man called Contuspex. Contuspex was a Coruscant-born man that was prominent within the Merchants Guild, and became a key figure within the Pius Dea faith due to his strong stance against corruption and intolerance towards anyone who didn't share his view. Contuspex was a very charismatic man, and his popularity with the general public allowed him to quickly become Coruscant's senator, and soon after ascend to the position of Supreme Chancellor in the year 11,987, marking the start of the Pius Dea era. What the general public didn't know was that Contuspex and his top allies conspired with Malachite poisoners to have the previous Chancellor Persila impeached and assassinated. Over the next several years, the Pius Dea removed all politicians that opposed Contuspex, replacing them with cult members. Many of these positions would become hereditary, and within 22 years, the cult controlled every aspect of the Republic government, unifying religion and state. By the year 11,965, the Pius Dea Republic had become a conspiratorial theocratic sect that Contuspex ruled like a dictator. This same year, Contuspex would take advantage of anti-Hutt sentiment and launch a preemptive strike against them in what would be known as the First Pius Dea Crusade. The goal of the Crusades was to purify the galaxy by eliminating the proscribed, the Republic's term for heretics, apostates, and any other non-humans that were stripped of their civic liberties when the Crusades began. Some exceptions were made, with a few aliens being welcomed into the Republic if they were wealthy or had useful traits, but only if they were willing to convert to the Pius Dea religion. A common rallying cry for Republic soldiers that took part in the Crusades was, "The Goddess wills it." After 40 years in 11,947, Contuspex I would step down from the position of Supreme Chancellor, and his son Contuspex II would become the new Chancellor, continuing his father's dynasty. Every Chancellor after the first would take the name Contuspex, even if they were not related to the original. In the year 11,939, Contuspex II would start the Third Pius Dea Crusade, once again attacking Hutt space. In response to the Crusades, the Jedi Order recused itself from the Republic, retreating to the planet Ossus in 11,933. Some Jedi went rogue, becoming privateers or explorers, while a group of Jedi that remained loyal to the Pius Dea Republic formed the Order of the Terrible Glare and moved to the planet Gran. On Garn, the Order's shaman became master illusionists and developed new technologies like soul snares, devices that could trap the soul of a being indefinitely. The Jedi Order and the Order of the Terrible Glare would fight each other off and on for the rest of the Pius Dea era. In 11,920, the Fourth Pius Dea Crusade would begin, invading Hutt space from the north using the Pabble-Hutta trade route. In the year 11,884, the Seventh Pius Dea Crusade, also known as the Great North Campaign, would begin against the Zabroks and other alien species native to the northern portion of the galaxy. In the year 11,820, the Sixth Alsakan conflict begins, as Alsakan and all allied worlds withdraw from the fanatical Republic. Alsakan had a large fleet of warships at its disposal, and was able to resist the Republic and maintain its borders. Many other worlds along the Perlimian hyperspace route would go on to plead Alsakan for protection from being persecuted by the Republic. Around this time, Alsakan opened secret communication channels with the Hutts, Duros, and Herglix, trying to form an alliance consisting of enemies of the Pius Dea Republic. In 11,791, the 10th Pius Dea Crusade begins, otherwise known as the Crusade of the Wilds. While the Pius Dea still mainly targeted aliens, they had now begun targeting human worlds as well that didn't share their religion and were labeled as proscribed. Not related to the Pius Dea, but still taking place in this time period, is the 12 Kingdoms era. Tepani historians believed that in 11,708, the main Tepani government split into 12 independent kingdoms that would expand, fight, merge, or sometimes die out over the next 8 centuries. In the year 11,660, the 12th Pius Dea Crusade would begin, as the Republic invades Zaracena III, turning it into a radioactive wasteland, leaving the remaining Zaracena to wander the galaxy as nomads. Around the 11,600s, a group of Republic refugees fleeing the Pius Dea discovered and settled on the 4th planet of the Prefs Belt system. Contuspex XI would launch the 15th Pius Dea Crusade in 11,591 against the Baragwins, starting with the invasion of Old Barag. Nearby planets such as Kenyan were also attacked on grounds of religious liberty. Kenyan's native Gran formed the Taiyan League of veterans of the Dolan region to fight back against the Republic. In the 11,500s, the Pius Dea developed cathedral ships to aid in the subjugation of rim worlds, as well as ferry resources of plundered worlds back to Coruscant. Each ship was commanded by a Pius Dea missionary and was crewed by Republic Navy personnel that had been raised in the faith. Cathedral ships were essential in establishing the Republic's new network of ordnance regional depots, a group of planets along the rim frontier that served as military and scouting outposts that were labeled with the Ord prefix. In the year 11,198, the 23rd Pius Dea Crusade is launched, with attacks on both in Atlantic territories. Starting in the 11,000s, the Pius Dea turned its fleet back on its own planets, beginning the Inquisition in an attempt to root out heretics amongst the Republic population. During the Inquisition, citizens throughout the core worlds and colonies were tried and executed in large numbers. In response to this, Kamasi emissaries traveled to the planet Ossus and encouraged the Jedi to end their recusal and ally with both them and Alsakan against the Pius Dea Republic. Together, the Kamasi, Jedi, and Alsakani began placing seeds of doubt in the Pius Dea faith in what would eventually grow into the Renunciate movement. In the year 11,057, the 34th and final Pius Dea Crusade is launched against Hutt space from the south. In the year 11,000, the Pius Dea formed the Republic Rocket Jumpers, a group of elite soldiers that were equipped with newly developed rocket packs. A number of these troopers would become Renunciate soldiers, and eventually aid the Jedi in liberating Ord Carida. By the 10,970s, the Renunciate movement had spread deep into the Pius Dea Republic, and one dissident, Admiral Pers Pradex, discovered the Prefs Belt system, and used it as the main naval base and retreat for Renunciates. In the year 10,967, the Renunciates revealed themselves an ally with the Jedi Order and their allies, starting both the 7th Alsakan conflict and the Pius Dea Civil War. After a year of the Pius Dea Civil War, the Jedi and Renunciates would gather their forces above the planet Uquine, and Contuspex XIX would lead the Pius Dea fleet there in an attempt to destroy the Republic's enemies. What the Pius Dea wasn't aware of was that the Bureau of Ships and Services had secretly allied with the Jedi and developed a rogue Navi computer code that was planted on the bulk of the Pius Dea cathedral ships, and when activated would jump the ships randomly into hyperspace. Right before the Pius Dea fleet entered hyperspace to go to Uquine, the Navi computer code was activated, and over half of the cathedral ships present made random hyperspace jumps that left them stranded deep in the unknown regions, with no way to re-enter hyperspace or call for help. When the remainder of the Pius Dea fleet did arrive at Uquine, they found themselves outnumbered and outmatched against the Renunciates and their allies. During the battle, a group of Jedi Knights boarded Contuspex's flagship, the Flame of Synthara, and fought their way to the bridge, capturing Contuspex. After the Pius Dea lost the battle, Contuspex XIX was taken to Kamos, where he was put on trial and found guilty for crimes against the galaxy and imprisoned for life. With the Battle of Uquine over, and the Republic's leadership and fleet lost, the Jedi went to Coruscant and removed all Senate and government officials that were allied to Contuspex and destroyed the Pius Dea Holy Temple. The Jedi Order then took complete control of the Republic government, and Jedi Grandmaster Bile Ductavus assumed the position of Supreme Chancellor. With the Battle of Uquine, 10,966 was the last year of the Pius Dea era, and the first year of the Ductavus era, the era where the Jedi led the Republic and helped repair the damage done by the Pius Dea Crusades. Even with the best effort from Ductavus and the Jedi Order, tensions between human-dominated core worlds and the alien-dominated Outer Rim remained, tensions that Palpatine would take advantage of thousands of years later to help form the Galactic Empire. The Order of the Terrible Glare, the Jedi that abandoned the Order to side with the Pius Dea, were hunted down and destroyed on Gran shortly after the Battle of Uquine. Before the Order was destroyed, High Shaman Roar uploaded his mind into one of the Order's computers, allowing him to continue fighting the Jedi by using long-range sensors that detected lightsabers to lure Jedi to Garn with fake distress calls so he could eliminate them. During the Galactic Civil War, Luke Skywalker is lured to Garn after receiving a distress call of a woman pleading for help, where he encounters High Shaman Roar in the Order's temple. Luke recognized the Order and Planet from a story that Obi-Wan Kenobi shared with him, and informed Roar that the Jedi had already been wiped out. In a fit of rage, Roar destroys the temple, ending the Order of the Terrible Glare, but not before Luke could escape. As for the Pius Dea religion, it lost most of its influence and followers in the generations after Contuspex XIX was imprisoned. Small pockets of Pius Dea faithful would remain scattered around the galaxy for a long time, but by the time of the Galactic Alliance after the Yuuzhan Vong War, the religion was considered dead. So that concludes the Pius Dea era in Star Wars Legends. When researching this topic, a lot of people referred to this era as being close to Warhammer 40k, and even I can see the similarities with second-hand knowledge I've picked up from friends. This was definitely one of the most interesting topics I've covered on the channel, and I would have made this video longer, but wasn't able to confirm or find sources for some of the material. I should also note that the Pius Dea era doesn't appear in any stories, and is only mentioned after the fact, or brought up in some resource books like The Essential Guide to Warfare. I know this was a very obscure and out there topic, but I hope everyone enjoyed the video regardless, and as always, thank you for watching.